If you found this podcast, chances are you're a high achiever and you're successful. But now you're stuck and stressed, and you realize that everything you've created hasn't given you the fulfillment and the joy you thought it would. This is where we discuss the keys of high performance mindset and stepping into the next best version of yourself. Welcome to the Positive Persistence Podcast.
Welcome back, Positive Persistence family. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about becoming your best self. And with a bachelor's degree in leadership and over 2 decades of coaching experience, my guest's mission is to guide and empower individuals and organizations to do just that. Through the Built Unstoppable program, he helps individuals and organizations take their goals from vision to reality by creating a supportive environment to help build your confidence and overcome your challenges. Andrew Adams, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother Ian, man? Thank you so much for having me, bro. It's an honor to be in the podcast with you and with all your listeners, man. I'm excited to talk about our topic today and just learn more about how you can become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrew and I met because I just finished going through the Built Unstoppable program, and I've had a lot of communication with Andrew and realized that he is a pretty amazing individual. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit, bring him on the show, and ask him about stepping into the next best version of yourself. Because if you've been following the podcast, if you've been following me on social media at all, you hear me say that a lot, stepping into the next best version of yourself, because that's something that I am passionate about helping people do. And Andrew, that is something that you've been doing for quite some time. So I want to kind of just start picking your brain by, you are driven like by a passion for personal development.
For sure.
And just to kind of start things off, where does that passion come from for you?
It's crazy because I didn't realize, obviously I'm 41 years old right now. And so most of my adult life, I've had this passion. But about 1.5 years ago, I was able to do some reflection and I was able to think back to ask myself that question: where did this come from? Where did this passion come from? Where did I have it from? And I realized that I had it ever since I was a teenager. Like ever since I was a teenager, I've always had a passion for excellence, for things being better than they were. Like I would always see, whether it was my friends or things happening in school. But then later on when I started working, like I would see how people were leading other people. And I would say, man, that's not right. Like, that's not cool. Like it should be better than that. Like people should be valued. They should be cared for. They should be invested in. Mm-hmm. And so when I started working my first adult job, when I was 19 years old, I started working at SeaWorld here in Orlando. And I came on, and got hired, and I was working and, just being myself. And I had a supervisor who was over me. Her name is Roshni Bell. I'll never forget her because she was the first person in a leadership position who looked at me and said, "Hey, I see this in you. I think there's something in you that we can pull out of you that can help you grow and become something greater than you ever thought you could be." And of course, I was 19 years old, man. I was wilding out back then. I didn't know what she was talking about, but I took that to heart, and I really allowed the team to invest in me. And so within 3 months, I was promoted from a regular employee to an on-the-job trainer at 19. And so my role was, all the new hires that came into our operations department, it was my responsibility to train them, to develop them, and to make sure all the I's were dotted, all the T's were crossed in the paperwork, and to invest in these new employees. And so that was where it all started for me. And I knew from that point forward, like that, this is what I was created to do. Like if I'm not investing in people, like I feel like I'm just wasting my time. And so I'm all about helping other people become the best versions of themselves. Because it's not about me, it's about we. So that's always something I've always been a firm believer in. And so throughout my journey, I've had some incredible leaders over me who have invested into me, who have taught me, who have showed me a lot of this stuff too. And so I've been able to see it and experience it. And, I've seen the right way to invest in people, but I've also seen the wrong way to invest in people. I've seen people grow and excel. I've seen people get burnt out and hurt. And so there's definitely two sides of the coin. And so there is definitely a right way of doing it. There's no cookie cutter form. There's no this method works. No, like people are people. People are different. People relate differently with different people. You just got to find out the right way to invest in people, man. And you can definitely pull leadership out of anybody. I firmly believe everybody has leadership. Like you may say, oh, I don't want to be a leader. Hey, that's cool. But hey, if you got relatives, if you got kids, if you got nieces and nephews, if you got people around you, guess what? They're looking at you. And if anyone is looking at you, man, that's influence. And
Right.
leadership is influence. That John Maxwell says that all the time. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So we all have influence in us. It just depends on how we leverage that leadership.
Wow, I like that. The last thing that you just said. We all have it in us, but it's all how we leverage it,
Correct.
right? So for some of us who may not feel like a leader, or
Mhm.
may not feel like we're able to step into that next best version and make our goals and our dreams a reality. In your 20 years of experience in coaching, what do you feel is the common denominator in people who don't feel like they can do that for themselves?
I think the biggest issue that I've seen, brother, is that people allow outside voices to
Hmm.
have more say so in their lives than they really should.
Yeah.
Like I had someone that was coaching talk about their role in their job and some of the things they were walking through and they were wrestling with. And that's a flat out tell them, I was like, hey, listen, does your job title define you or do you define who you are? And it's important that you understand that at an early age because your job title will change. That's going to come and go. Like
Mhm.
what you do for a paycheck does not define you. I remember my dad told me this at an early age. My pop said, in your life, you only have one name. Don't mess that name up. Don't tarnish it. Watch what you do because what you do impacts who you are. And so I've always held on to that. And so what I see is I see a lot of people, they say, oh, I'm in this role in my job. Oh, my manager doesn't let me do this. Oh, my supervisor doesn't trust me with this. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, but how does that define you? Like you can't control what's happening or what, all this stuff. What you can control is how you wake up every single morning, what you're doing to invest in you to make sure you're the best version of you. So you can't let your job title, you can't let all these outside influences impact who you are. Like you got to know who you are, and you got to trust who you are. You got to believe in who you are, and you got to go out there and you got to make the best of what you have. And so I think that's the biggest thing to me is like, man, don't allow people whose advice you wouldn't take allow their criticism to shake you.
Right.
Like especially in the world we live in today, everybody's all about so and so on social media said this or that or blah 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 blah. It's like, listen, would you take their advice if your life depended on it? Well, no. So why are you listening to their criticism for? Like who cares? Like everyone's got an opinion. Like
Yeah.
everyone's got opinions like noses. Everybody's got one. Like, man, hey, you know what? That's your thoughts. Cool, man. Appreciate it. I'm moving on because I know who I am. So I'm not gonna allow what you're saying to impact me because I know who I am. So I
Right.
think it's that, but I also think it's another thing. I think it's people have a lack of boundaries. People have a lack of boundaries in their lives, and so when you have a lack of boundaries, man, everything can just come together, and you have a hard time separating things. And so when you have a lack of boundaries, you allow so many different voices to impact your heart, your core of who you are. But when you have boundaries, man, you put boundaries on people, man, you start to realize, man, like their voice, what they're saying, doesn't really impact me as much as I used to let it do. Because now I have a boundary on that person. So when you have a boundary on that person, what they're saying about me doesn't really matter as much as it used to.
Mhm.
Because now I know who I am and I love myself, I value myself. So I'm gonna not allow this nonsense in my life. I'm gonna focus on what's good, what's true, what's pleasing, what's perfect, what's gonna help me become better.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna allow negativity in my life, bro. Like life is too short for us to be worrying about what the haters are saying, bro.
Agreed. Agreed. Now, what you are saying, Andrew, is it's easy, but it's not simple,
For sure.
right?
a
So,
hundred percent.
and what you're saying, you have to be confident in yourself. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have self-love. You have to be able to, have the mental fortitude to not allow, and again, I emphasize that word, not allow other people's perception of
Mm-hmm.
your abilities become your reality.
For sure.
For people who maybe aren't in that stage or situation or season in their life where they feel confident in who they are there any techniques or steps or tips to help somebody get to that position to where they're confident enough to let the slings and arrows bounce off of them because they are solid in who they are?
Yeah, no, appreciate the question. Yeah, so a big part of that, and we talk about it in the program that we were just in, is you got to have the right people in your corner. So like you got to have people in your corner, man, who are gonna believe in you, who in your good times and bad times, man, are gonna stay the same. Like they're not gonna shift. Like
Right.
for example, one of my best friend is in my corner. I love my best friend. We've been doing life together for coming up on 20 years. So we're talking about like college, marriage, marital issues, parents, parental stuff. Like we've gone through the ringer together. Uh, but we have such a tight relationship and we're so honest with each other, but in a loving and caring way, in a compassionate way,
Hmm.
that we know that when the other person is providing feedback, it's not from a place of jealousy or insecurity, it's from a place of love. But that took time to build that relationship, to build that trust. And I know that when I'm feeling down, when I got the crazy going on up here, I can call up my boy and be like, "Hey man, like I'm struggling." He's like, "All right, what's up?" And I can talk to him. He was just fine. He'll say, "Okay, that's cool." He says, "But you know who you are, right?" He reminds me of who I am, and vice versa. I remind him of who he is, and we hold each other accountable like that. You got to have people who are going to believe in you, who are going to hold you accountable, who aren't going to let you get stuck in the funk and the nastiness and the lies, because man, like up in here, man, we know exactly what to say to cut ourselves. Like we can hurt ourselves more than anybody else because we know our insecurities, we know our shortcomings, we know our mistakes, we know our failures, and
Hmm.
so if we're not careful, man, that negative trailer of our life movie will be
Yes.
on repeat,
Yeah.
and it's hard to get out of it because when we're by ourselves, it's hard to get out of it. But I was reading an article recently that talked about, man, like a lot of our struggles comes from isolation and being by ourselves. So if you're feeling mad, if you're struggling with something, man, get outside. Go get some sunlight. Like go for a walk. Like go to the grocery store, just walk around. Like just being around other people actually, helps fill us. And so that's my biggest thing is like if you're having a hard time, like I went through that season where I felt like I felt like I had zero belief in myself. I felt like I couldn't do anything else. I felt like I was done because of what I just came out of. And I was in that funk for a while because a lot of us like to stay in the whole, "Oh, I'm the victim" mentality. There's a certain level of which is weird, a level of comfort, but it's not really comfort. It's really
Yeah.
destruction is what it is. It destroys us. But
Right.
we stay in our own funk. But it's like, no, like I had to make a decision that I wasn't going to stay there anymore.
Hmm.
Like I had to make it. No one's going to make it for me. Like no one's going to make your decision for you. No
Right.
one's going to do for you what you have to do. No one's going to get that book for you. No one's going to get that podcast. No one's going to get up and take a shower and eat a healthy breakfast. Like no one is going to do those things for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Right.
Like, and you have to take that step. You got to make that decision. You got to have the passion to want to shake free. And if you don't have it, I get it. Sometimes you don't have it. Sometimes I don't have it. But when I don't have it, I have people in my life that I've invested in. And because I've invested in them, they are also investing in me. They're not just time sucks. They're not
Hmm.
just, they don't just drain me. No, they add value to me and I add value to them.
Yeah.
And so when I'm feeling that way, man, I call them and man, they lift me up. One of the things I always tell my friends when they're feeling something, when they're struggling or anything, I always tell them, hey, if you're struggling with this, borrow some of my courage, borrow some of my encouragement, borrow some of my faith and belief in you. Because right now I see that you're struggling with it, but you know what? I know you can do it. How do I know this? Because you've done it before. The task may seem different this time, but the
Yes.
objective is still the same.
Right.
The objective is still the same. You have to overcome yourself. One of my favorite rappers, Andy Mineo, he says in one of his songs, he says, "My biggest enemy is me, but then even I can't stop me."
Hmm.
And that should be our mentality. Like, we are our biggest enemies. Like, because we hold ourselves back from so much. And my thing is, for me, is like, I don't want to be on my deathbed looking back and wondering, man, what if I would have did this? What if I would have did that? What if I would have went here? What if I would have, you know what I mean? Like, nah, like, I'm looking now, like, no, I'm doing this now, because when I get there, I want to be satisfied with the things that I achieved and accomplished in my life. And so it's all about, man, it's all about here. It's all about your mindset, man. And so, like,
Absolutely.
I always tell people, man, when you're feeling down, what music are you listening to? What TV shows have you been watching? What movies have you been watching? You know, how are you spending your time? Are you on social media a lot? Because in the times of my life when I felt that negative weight, man, all those boxes had X's on them because I was all investing in the wrong things, bro. And when you're listening to the wrong music, when you're watching the wrong TV shows, when you're on social media, you're just scrolling all day long, man. Like, you're not really feeding yourself with anything positive. So
Yeah.
what do you think you're gonna feel like? You know, I've always lived by the mindset, and I'm trying to apply it more nowadays than I have in the past. But garbage in is garbage out. So if you're eating garbage, you're going to produce garbage. If you're watching garbage, you're going to produce garbage. If you listen to garbage, you're going to produce garbage. Like, there's so many great free resources out there, man. There's so many positive things you can listen to on podcasts, on YouTube. Like, there's so many things out there. But you have to just, man, type into Google positive, like, just type in and just listen to something that's going to add value to you. Pick up a book, you know, like, there's so many great free resources out there to help you get out of that funk. But you can't be your biggest enemy anymore. Like, stop listening to the lies. Stop believing the lies. Believe the truth. Write down the truths about who you are and know who you are. Know your talents, know your gifts, know your abilities, know your strengths. Because if you're working in the wrong area, in the wrong department, in the wrong field, and you're not using those things, you're going to feel that way. So pursue work that's going to be gratifying to you, that's going to fulfill your passion and your calling in life. I don't know if that was too much or if we went down a different path, but not. But
Pearls of wisdom in there, Andrew. A lot of pearls of wisdom.
It's time to ask yourself, when was the last time you prioritized you? Did you know that research shows that nearly 85% of high performers struggle to maintain a performance mindset while juggling the demands of work and personal life? Those who actively prioritize their performance mindset and personal growth are 30% more likely to achieve their goals in business and life. If you're feeling crippling stress and anxiety, or if you're feeling guilty when you take a moment for yourself, or if you're stuck in the grind and feeling burnt out, you're not alone. Many of us yearn for more, but struggle with the fear of being judged or feeling selfish. And you want to step into the next best version of yourself. That's why I created the Rinse Method, which got me from paraplegic to marathon runner. Backed by science-based proven strategies and now customized for high performers like you. If you're stuck and stressed and want clear steps that you can implement today to move forward, make sure you visit thepositivepersistence.com to download our free Rinse PDF.
I want to drill back down to something that you talked about in, getting out of your funk, the funk that you were in. You had to decide at some point that this comfort level that I'm in, even though it's tearing me down, even though it's negative, even though it's holding me back, it's comfortable. But at some point you had to decide that I've had enough.
yeah,
This comfortableness has now become uncomfortable. And I need to take the steps to get out of this funk. So help us understand, like, what do you think goes into that decision that leads up to, I need to change more than I want to stay in this comfortable dissatisfaction?
So for me, it was, I've been married to my beautiful wife coming up on 15 years this August. And so looking at my wife, looking at my 4 incredible children every single day. And man, by God's grace, man, my kids are amazing. Like, man, they're so full of positivity, man. Like, they're such encouragers and so full of love. And so, it was my kids, man, continues to come up to me, Daddy, are you okay? Daddy, are you okay? And to a point, I got tired of like, not tired of hearing my kids say that, but I got to the point where I got tired of putting my kids in a position where they had to ask that.
Mm.
Because I feel like as a father, my kids shouldn't be able to come up to me to check on me. Like, it's my job as a dad to check on my kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're kids. And so so just hearing that, it broke my heart a little bit. And once again, I had to reach out to a mentor of mine. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's so important that you have the right people that you could reach out to. I had to reach out to a mentor of mine, and we had a great conversation. And he checked me on some things, and he was like, bro, like, this isn't you. Like, you are one of the most tactical, get after it dudes I've ever met. And right now you're sitting in your crap, bro. Like, that ain't you. You've never been one to take a blow and just stay in it. Like, get up. And so it took some hard conversations, but man, it wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, okay, I'm great. No, it was like, okay, all right, so what's the first thing I gotta do? Okay, I gotta go look for a job. So I gotta go on Indeed, like, start looking for a job.
Right.
Start applying, start having conversations. Drive around, get outside. Breathe the fresh air. Don't freak. What are the things that you love to do? So for me, like, I love playing golf. So I had to get out on the golf course again. I had to get out and play 18 holes by myself to clear my head, to get out of this funk, to remind myself of who I am and what I'm about and what I'm capable of. Right. So a lot of times, man, like, it's hard, bro. Like, when we get stuck in that nonsense, man, like, it's hard to get out of it. It's hard when you can't see out of it. But man, like, it's important that we learn how to identify it. It's kind of like, when you're swimming out in the ocean, or you're in the pool, you go into the deep end, and you're realizing, like, you're getting a little tired. Okay, like, hold up, like, this is getting a little difficult for me. Like, a fool would sit there, and even though they're starting to struggle, is gonna stay in the same spot. That's foolishness. Because if you're struggling and you're like, no, I can get out of it, but you're still struggling, and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're still stuck. Like, that's foolishness. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to realize, like, hey, I need help. Like, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to say, hey, I need help. I need someone to help me. Like, hey, like, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need a lifeguard to throw me the rope, to throw me the buoy, to grab onto, and someone to pull me to shore. And so for me, that was, it was my kids, my wife, my mentor, but also, most importantly, it was going to counseling. Like, I needed to talk to somebody about my trauma from my childhood that I never really fully processed. I needed to get some EMDR therapy. Like, I needed to walk through my journey of pain to be able to get out on the other side and breathe. Like, a lot of times we don't want to do that. Like, we are all, like, it's pretty rare nowadays to meet someone who hasn't experienced trauma. And trauma looks different for everybody. Like, not everybody has the same level of trauma. Like, trauma impacts us so differently, bro. But the important thing is becoming aware of that trauma, because that trauma can hold you back for real from becoming the best version of yourself. Yeah. Because if you have that repeating playlist of that 8th grade teacher telling you you're worthless and you're useless, man, you're never going to be able to push out of that, because that's going to be playing there. And so you think you're doing good, but as soon as you hit a speed bump, or you hit, something that puts you back, all of a sudden that playlist starts playing again. You start thinking, I'm a failure. I'm never going to amount to nothing. And so you start believing that nonsense, that negative nonsense, instead of realizing, man, look at my journey. Look at all the things that I've overcome. And man, if I've done it before, man, I could do it again. Yes. Like, there's nothing in this life that I can't overcome. As long as I'm breathing, man, I can do anything. For me, a big foundation that is my faith. I'm a firm believer in Jesus, and for me, it's like I hold on to God's word in the scriptures. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Like God gives me the strength every single day to move forward, to be the man that He's called me to be. So I know that I'm not doing this on my own. I know that I got people around me. I know that I got my friends. I got people that I could reach out to. And man, you gotta come to that place in your journey where you say, you know what? You gotta look around and say, A, how did I get here? And B, I need to get out of here. And if you need help, man, reach out to somebody. Like send Ian an email. Like you know what I mean? Like ask for help. Like there is help
Yeah.
available. People want to help. Just ask for help. We can't do it on our own, man.
Right. And I think that is a huge piece of advice, especially for those of us who grow up in minority cultures.
For sure,
That's
man.
something that men especially are gonna do. And I guess that really knows no boundaries in terms of race and ethnicity, that men in general usually don't ask for help. But it is so important, because if you are, like you said, if you are struggling and you're in the middle of that deep end and you are treading water and you're getting tired and you keep doing the same thing over and over without making any progress, eventually you're going to drown,
Yeah,
right? So you have to
sure.
ask for help, someone to help you to show you the way.
And
You
when
know,
I look back on my journey, man, I look back on the specific points in my life where there was an opportunity where my life can go one way or the other.
mhm,
And the reason why it's always gone the healthier way, the best way, is because there was always someone that I was able to go talk to, that was able to check me and say, hey, so we're not going to do this. We're going to do this instead, because this is what's better for you.
right,
And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my friends and my mentors in my life who, in those hard moments where I felt like, man, you know what, I just want to give it all up and just go here. They're like, no, 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 no. You're not going to do that, because that's not who you are.
right.
And so without those people, without those men and women in my life, man, I wouldn't be here today, bro.
Yeah,
But it wasn't just me. Like our lives are not just a journey on our own. Our lives are a journey where there have been people in our lives, in our corners, who have helped us get to where we're at now. There's also people that try to hold us back and try to hurt us, 100%.
hmm
But there's a process called forgiveness that we got to walk through and learn how to release them from that, and learn how to leverage that as our platform, not as our tombstone. People that hurt us, they meant to hurt us. They meant for it to be our tombstone, but you know what? We're going to use it as our platform to elevate ourselves, bro. It's not going to be the end of me. This ain't the death of me, man. This is a new launch for me. It's a new season, a new life, a new birth for me. You
Right.
got to have that perspective, bro.
I think that's a super unique and interesting way to look at challenges and obstacles and adversity. That this is not going to be the end of me. This is not going to define me. This is actually going to make me stronger. And
100%.
once I prevail, once I push through this adversity, this is just one thing that I'm going to use the next time that challenges come. And I remember that I've been here before, like you mentioned.
For
I'll
sure.
remember that I've been in this scenario, this situation where, my back's up against the wall and the chips are down and I'm struggling, but I've made it before, so I can do it again.
Correct.
And you talked about having people in your corner. And I know that is one of the pillars of the Built Unstoppable program. What are some of the other pillars that you talk about in that program that are really, for lack of a better word, just important for people to be able to latch on to?
So, man, there's so many important ones. But I think for me, because everything that we're talking about today, I'm not trying to sound like, if you're struggling with something, oh, it's easy, just dust yourself off and move forward. Man, that would be so, that would show a lack of empathy on my side.
Right.
And so if you're listening and you're going through some hard stuff right now, man, I empathize with you. I'm so sorry you're going through the pain that you're going through, because I've been in your shoes. I get it. I know what that's like. But I think for me was realizing, when it comes to, like, with the program also, was realizing the fact that my life has purpose and value, and I have to figure out what that is. And for such a long time, I allowed what other people had said dictate my purpose and value.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that my purpose and value was only to help elevate them and what they wanted to do and what they wanted to accomplish. And man, I have more worth and value than that. And so, um, going through the program, preparing the program, and when Nate and myself were just kind of dreaming of this, what does it look like? Like Nate's always had this perspective on three main important things: is your core, your fuel, and your lighthouse. And so talking about your core is who you are as a person, like down to like your inside, like who are you at the core of yourself? Who are you?
Mhm.
And I had to remember who I was. Like, who am I? First and foremost, I'm a child of God. Second, I'm Andrew Adamas. Third, I'm a husband to Tiffany. Fourth, I'm a father to Anderson, Audrey, Aliana, and Aurora. And everything else comes after that. Like that has to be my priority. That has to be my core of who I am, because that reminds me, that keeps me grounded every single day, and it doesn't allow anything else to shape my identity. Like that's my identity right there. And so going from there was realizing that learning about the fuel, like there's fuel like that we have in our lives that drives us, and there's different kinds of fuel. And so when you're putting a campfire together, you get the kindling and you get the starter log, but then you got to get that fuel that's going to carry you long term. And so the kindling, that stuff burns out real quick. Like that's just there to get it going, to get it started, but it burns out fast. Like, so whatever
Right.
your motivation is, man, if it's something that's short sighted, it's gonna burn out fast. Like you gotta have that heart log, that heart passion that's gonna drive you every single day. So like for me, I'm different. Like we're all different, but I know my purpose and why I'm here on this earth. I know what I'm here for. I'm
Mhm.
here to help people become better versions of themselves in any shape or that way. And so dealing with people isn't always easy. Like we are very difficult. I'm difficult. You're
Yeah.
difficult. We're all difficult. And if you don't believe it, man, if you're married, go ask your spouse. Ask them, am I difficult? And I bet you they're going to say a resounding, yup. But
Right.
but it's learning that, man, when you have a passion and a calling on your life, you know you're doing the right thing. That when no matter what happens to you, like you can't shake it. Like people have hurt me, I can't shake it. I can't blame you for what somebody else did to me. Like no, like man, that hurt, yeah, but I got to work through that pain. I got to grieve it. I got to mourn it. I got to work through it. I got to process it, get to a healthy place with it. But there are so many other people in this world that need to be impacted. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people that need to be impacted by love, by encouragement, by grace, by generosity, by
Yeah.
belief. You know what I mean? There's so many people. And so that for me, that's my heart log, my fuel that keeps my fuel burning, that doesn't burn out, is the fact that, man, I want to impact people. And so there are so many people to impact that, man, I just keep going because that's my heart for it. And then we talk about the lighthouse in it, and your lighthouse. I love the lighthouse illustration because when you think about a lighthouse, the purpose of a lighthouse is to help a ship get to where it's going, gets to its final destination. And so if it's pitch black at night, in the middle of a storm, whatever's happening at night, man, that captain of that ship can see that lighthouse and know that that's where I got to go. And that lighthouse helps that captain stay focused and determined on where he or she is going.
Right.
And so that's what we talk about. The lighthouse concept is, man, you got to know where where do you want to go? Where do you want to end up? What is your focus? What is your life mission? What is your lighthouse? Because once you have that focused, nothing can take you away from it. Not even yourself. Not even yourself. Because
Right.
it's in here. And
Yeah.
like you said earlier, when we align what's here to here, man, nothing can stop that. Nothing can get in the way of that. And so when your lighthouse is focused, man, when you're focused on your lighthouse, on your long-term destination, on what you want to be, where you want to go, then everything you do has a purpose. Because everything you're doing, the purpose is that lighthouse. So my purpose is, I want to leave a legacy that leaves a legacy. And so everything that I do right now impacts how I'm leaving a legacy that leaves a legacy. So it's not just how I treat my wife. It's not just how I treat my children. It's how I treat you. It's how I treat my friends, the people at Starbucks, the people at Publix, at the gas station. the person that's driving in their car on the interstate that just cut me off. Like it's all those people, like that person who's talking smack on Facebook, like all those people. What I say matters. You know, one of my boys told me, my mentors, he told me this, and it's such a key phrase that I hold on to. He says, words are like toothpaste. Once you push it out, you can't put it back in the tube. And so, man, words are so important. What
Yes,
we
they
say.
are.
And it's funny because we grew up hearing this song, what was it? Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me.
What's never heard of
Wrong. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but guess what? You can have surgery. You can put a cast on it, and you're back to normal. But words, man, that heartbreaking phrase that your mom or your dad or someone that you loved said to you, that's still there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard thing to heal from.
Yeah, that's so true.
Ain't no doctor can heal you from that, man.
Right.
That takes time. That takes counseling. That takes work, man. Like you got to work, put the work in to make it happen, to work past that, man. And you can't allow external factors to be your lighthouse. You can't allow external factors to be your fuel. Because if your fuel is what someone else said or what someone else did and you want to do it for them, man, that's not gonna get you long term, bro. Like eventually that's gonna phase out. No, it has to be what you want, who you are. It has to be tied into you as a person, as an individual, so that you can stay focused. Because if it's on external things, man, if it's on a certain dollar amount, when you make that dollar amount, what's next? You know, if it's on a certain job promotion, when you get that promotion, what's next? Like it can't be on things like that. It has to be on something that is that is a journey that is long term.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to keep you focused and determined to achieve what you were created to achieve, man. Excuse me.
Yeah. Man. Continue to drop pearls of wisdom and knowledge bombs, Andrew, man. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story and sharing your experience, sharing your wisdom. Where can our listeners and viewers find out more about you, find out more about what you offer, find out more about the Built Unstoppable program?
Yeah, definitely, man. So the Built Unstoppable program, it's a game changer. When I went through it, and I say I went through it when Nate and I kind of put it together and walked through it together, man, it was a game changer for me. And so, man, we really want to get this program into as many people's lives as possible because, man, it is definitely it definitely brings clarity and focus to your life, man, to be the best version of yourself. And so, you can go to the website is www.successwithnategreen.com, and you can find out more about the programs on there. You can find me on social media. You can go on Facebook, Andrew Adamas Coaching. You can find me on there. And so, we'd love to connect. We'd love to, build with anybody, answer any questions, man. Be support to anybody out there, man. Just, my goal is to elevate others, man. To make you better. Because when I make you better, I know I'm fulfilling my purpose.
Love that. I love that. Well, Andrew, thank you so much, man, for being with us. And I want to thank all of our listeners and our viewers for tuning in and always remembering to be positive, like we talked about today. Stay persistent, like we talked about today. And know that mindset is everything.
For sure.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Positive Persistence family. We're having a great time creating this content, and we truly hope it inspires you to embrace positivity and persistence in your own journey. If this podcast episode inspired you or entertained you, scroll down, hit those stars, and leave a comment or two. Your 5-star reviews and shares encourage us and help us grow the show. So until next time, stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything.